Black CEO can't board first class until. He makes a call and shuts down the entire airline. Sir, I'm going to need you to move away from the first class. Q. The attendant's words cut through, the air like a blade, her voice loud, enough for everyone around to hear. Marcus Reynolds remained motionless, the $5,000 suit perfectly fitting his athletic body, his Patek Philippe watch, glinting discreetly under the airport lights. It wasn't the first time this had happened, but it would be the last. My ticket is for first class, Marcus replied calmly, holding out his boarding pass and ID again. Seat 3A, Diane Parker, as indicated by her badge. Examine the documents with a look of suspicion so evident that several passengers around her began to observe the scene. A middle-aged man in an ill-fitting blue blazer smiled, discreetly as if witnessing something that confirmed his deepest beliefs. That ticket looks unusual, Diane commented, turning the boarding pass over as if looking for some sign of forgery. How exactly did you acquire it? The question hung in the air, full of innuendo. What she really meant was, how can someone like you pay for a seat in first class? How dare you occupy spaces not intended for people of your color? Marcus was 42 and had a technology empire worth $4.30 billion. Phoenix Technologies, which he built from scratch, supplied cyber security systems to half of the world's largest companies. But for Diane, he was just another black man trying to occupy a place that she believed didn't belong to him. I bought it online like anyone else would, Marcus replied, his calm voice contrasting with controlled anger in his eyes. I'll need to check this with my supervisor, Diane insisted, ignoring the growing queue behind Marcus. Maybe there's been some mistake in the system. That's when a young employee called. Alex, who was watching the scene with growing discomfort, timidly approached. Mrs. Parker, this is Marcus Reynolds. He's the CEO of Phoenix Tech. Diane cut him off with an abrupt gesture. It doesn't matter, Alex. I'm following security protocol. Which protocol? Exactly? Asked Marcus, studying Diane's face, memorizing every detail. The protocol that only applies to black passengers with first-class tickets. A security guard approached, summoned by a discreet nod from Diane. Is there a problem here? We're just checking the authenticity of this ticket, Diane replied with a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. Marcus could have protested. He could have created a scene. Instead, he stepped to the side, removed his phone from his pocket, and made a call. Helen, this is Marcus. Activate the Phoenix protocol. Yes. Immediately, he hung up the phone and turned to Diane, whose smile of superiority was beginning to falter in the face of his unwavering calm. Passengers boarding for Pinnacle Airways. Flight 3217 to San Francisco will begin in 15 minutes, announced a voiceover. The PA system completely oblivious to the drama unfolding at the check-in counter. Marcus looked at his watch. Again, in exactly 72 hours, Ms. Parker will understand the true meaning of security protocol, he said calmly before walking away toward the waiting area. Further away, what Diane Parker didn't know, what no one at Pinnacle Airways imagined, was that Marcus Reynolds had been waiting for this moment. After 2 decades of building power, influence, and resources, he was finally ready to face the system that had always treated him like an intruder. As he walked through the terminal, Marcus typed rapidly on his phone. Alex, the young employee, ran after him. Mr. Reynolds, I'm sorry about what happened. Ms. Parker does not represent our company. Marcus stopped and faced the young man. Don't worry, Alex. I don't blame you. But soon, everyone at Pinnacle Airways will learn a valuable lesson about judging people by the color of their skin. On the other side of town, in an elegant office overlooking downtown, Helen Ortiz, director of operations at Phoenix Tech and a former federal intelligence agent, received Marcus' message. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, activating a sequence of commands that would set in motion an operation meticulously planned over years. On his computer screen, a single prompt flashed. Phoenix protocol activated. Countdown initiated. 72 hours. Meanwhile, Diane Parker continued her day processing passengers completely, unaware that she had just set in motion events that would not only change her life, but transform an entire industry. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to follow the unfolding of this relentless confrontation between power and prejudice, because when Marcus Reynolds promises a lesson, the whole world stops to watch, and Pinnacle Airways is about to discover the price of underestimating the wrong man. In the private hangar on the other side of the airport, Marcus Reynolds showed no frustration as he boarded his private jet. His face remained impassive, but his mind was working at high speed, processing every detail of the calculated humiliation he had just experienced. The flight is ready, Mr. Reynolds, the pilot informed him. We'll arrive in San Francisco in approximately 3 hours. Thank you, Thomas, replied Marcus. Make a change of plans. I want to stop by our Denver office first. As the jet taxied down the runway, Marcus opened his laptop and started a video conference. 5 faces appeared on the screen, the inner circle of Phoenix Technologies. The incident occurred exactly as we predicted. Marcus announced without preamble. The Phoenix protocol is active. Helen Ortiz nodded. The first algorithms have already been deployed. In 12 hours, we'll have complete access to Pinnacle's internal systems. What about the documents? Asked Marcus. Julian is finalizing them now, replied Helen. 5 years of documented incidents involving systematic racial discrimination at Pinnacle, all ready to be released when the time is right. Meanwhile, at the offices of Pinnacle Airways, the end of the day was proceeding as normal. Diane Parker had already forgotten about the incident with a difficult passenger, as she referred to Marcus in her brief note to the supervisor. We had to deal with a problem passenger trying to access first class, she reported casually during the shift change. I referred it to security, and we resolved the situation. What Diane didn't know was that Alex, the young employee who had recognized Marcus, was typing frantically on his mobile. You won't believe it. Diane just humiliated Marcus Reynolds. Yes, that Marcus Reynolds from Phoenix Tech. At 9:47 p.m., the first sign that something was wrong appeared in Pinnacle's operations center. An IT technician noticed anomalies in the booking system. Small, seemingly random glitches that specifically affected the company's most profitable flights. It must be a temporary bug, concluded the system supervisor, ignoring the alerts. The following morning, Richard Hampton, CEO of Pinnacle Airways, received an unusual call during his breakfast. Richard, it's Caroline from the board. We need to talk about an incident with a VIP passenger yesterday. Hampton frowned. What passenger? Marcus Reynolds, the founder of Phoenix Technologies. Hampton's blood ran cold. Phoenix wasn't just any company. It was responsible for the cybersecurity systems of several competing airlines, and Pinnacle had recently rejected a proposal to partner with them, opting instead for a cheaper supplier. As Pinnacle's management began to panic, Marcus arrived at his office in San Francisco, where Julian Singh, his legal Director was waiting for him with a folder of documents. 5 years of Pinnacle's internal records explained. Julian, complaints from Black and Latino. Passengers systematically ignored. Unofficial extra check policies for first-class passengers who don't match the expected profile in 3. Discrimination lawsuits that were quietly hushed up with confidential settlements. Helen entered the room with an update. Phoenix Protocol Phase 1. Complete. We have full access to internal systems and we've identified our internal ally. Helen projected a picture of a woman onto the screen. Victoria Chun, Vice President of Operations at Pinnacle. 3 years ago, she presented a detailed report to the board about systematic discrimination in the company. The report was shelved and she was subtly punished. Marcus studied the face on the screen. Get in touch with her discreetly. On the other side of the country, Pinnacle Airways was beginning to face inexplicable problems. The reservation system was crashing. Flights were delayed without explanation. VIP customers discovered that their reservations had been downgraded to economical class. Diane Parker was facing a growing queue of angry passengers when she received a call from her supervisor, summoning her to an urgent meeting. Arriving at the office, she found not only her supervisor, but also the human resources director and a company lawyer. We need to discuss the incident with Mr. Reynolds yesterday. Her supervisor informed her gravely. Who? Asked Diane, genuinely confused. Marcus Reynolds, the passenger you prevented from boarding. First class. Diane's face palled. Oh, that man. He was being rude, and I followed. Protocol? What protocol exactly? Interrupted the lawyer, taking notes. In Marcus' office, a screen showed live feeds from social media. Hashtag Pinnacle. Racism was beginning to gain momentum, with the first reports of passengers sharing similar experiences. It's just beginning, said Marcus, watching the countdown on his watch. 48 hours, 13 minutes and 42 seconds. What Pinnacle Airways didn't understand was that every minute that passed, every desperate attempt at damage control, every corporate denial only brought them closer to the precipice. Marcus had waited decades for this moment, building up enough power and influence to confront not just Diane Parker, but an entire system designed to humiliate people like him. And while C.O. Hampton believed he could resolve the situation with a simple resignation and an apology, he had no idea that Marcus' real plan was much more ambitious, not just exposing discrimination, but completely transforming the balance of power. As Marcus had told Helen before boarding his jet, we're not just punishing a person or a company, we're changing the rules of the game. On the third day after the incident, Richard Hampton woke up to the insistent ringing of his phone. It was 4:18 a.m. when Pinnacle's financial director informed him that all the company's operating systems were down. Not just the booking system, absolutely everything. We're talking about a total collapse, Richard. Check-in, boarding, communication with aircraft, payroll, nothing is working. Hampton dressed quickly, his mind racing, to calculate the damage. For every hour of downtime, Pinnacle was losing millions. As he drove to the office, alarming news came over the radio. We are receiving reports that Pinnacle Airways is facing massive disruption to its operations. Thousands of passengers are stranded at airports across the country. In the command center of Phoenix Technologies, Marcus Reynolds calmly watched multiple monitors showing the chaos in the airports, the desperation in the eyes of Pinnacle executives captured by discreet cameras, and the vertiginous fall of the company's shares. Phase 2 complete, announced Helen, All systems are under our control. Excellent, replied Marcus. Start phase 3. At that very moment, in every major newsroom in the country, editors were receiving detailed packages of internal Pinnacle documents, emails between executives discussing how to filter first-class passengers, memos on how to deal with customers who don't fit the profile, records of systematically ignored complaints, and most devastatingly, proof that Hampton had personally hushed up 3 discrimination lawsuits. At 9 a.m., the main news network interrupted its regular programming. Breaking news. Leaked documents reveal systematic culture of racial discrimination at Pinnacle Airways. The company is being accused of implementing unwritten policies to discourage Black and Latino passengers from using first class. In Pinnacle's offices, the panic intensified. Lawyers ran through the corridors. Public relations officers formulated desperate responses, but none of it mattered. The systems were still completely paralyzed. Who the hell is doing this to us? Shouted Hampton, punching the meeting table. And how do we stop it? That's when his assistant entered the room pale. Mr. Hampton, Marcus Reynolds is at reception. He demands to speak to the council. Immediately, the silence that followed was deafening. Hampton swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. Bring him here, he finally ordered. When Marcus entered the meeting room, there was no sign of the humiliation he had suffered days before. Impeccably dressed, he walked with quiet confidence to the center of the table, where Hampton and the 6 members of the council were watching him with a mixture of fear and resentment. Sit down, Mr. Reynolds offered Hampton, trying to maintain some semblance of control. I suppose the situation has something to do with you. Marcus smiled slightly. No, Mr. Hampton, this situation has everything to do with you. I'm just the catalyst. Marcus opened his tablet and connected it to the room's projection system. Let me show you exactly what's happening with Pinnacle Airways right now. The screen displayed a global map, dotted with red lights, each representing a Pinnacle plane unable to take off. Another graphic showed the value of shares plummeting in real time. A third monitor displayed the headlines proliferating on social media. In exactly 24 hours, Marcus explained calmly, Pinnacle Airways will lose approximately 68% of its market value. Its insurance contracts have specific clauses about operational disruptions that exceed 48 hours, clauses that will be triggered tomorrow. And as I predicted, its majority shareholders are already organizing an emergency sale. One of the board members stood up, red with fury. This is extortion. It's illegal. No, Mr. Peterson replied. Marcus, that's a consequence, and it's perfectly legal. Marcus slid a document across the table. This is an offer from Phoenix Technologies to acquire Pinnacle Airways for 30% of its market value of 3 days ago. It's a generous offer, considering that in 48 hours, the value will be 0. Hampton ran his eyes over the document, his face paling with each line. You can't do that, he whispered. I can, and I'm doing it, replied Marcus. And unlike you, I have all the evidence. I need to justify my actions when the investigations begin. Or did you think that systematically discriminating against people of color for years would have no consequences? Victoria Chun, who was watching silently from the edge of the table, stood up and walked over to stand next to Marcus. I support this takeover, she announced firmly, and I have 3 years of ignored reports to justify my position. The betrayal hit Hampton like a physical punch. Victoria, are you with him? I'm with Justice Richard, Victoria replied calmly. Something you should have considered a long time ago. One by one, the members of the council began to give in, recognizing that there was no alternative, with systems paralyzed, reputation in shambles, and shares in free fall. Marcus' offer was the only way out. Meanwhile, outside the boardroom, Diane Parker was being escorted out of the building, her things in a box, her badge confiscated. "I don't understand," she protested. "Why am I being punished? I was just following procedures." The HR manager didn't even bother to reply. They both knew the truth. On the monitor in the meeting room, the countdown reached 0. And just as the last member of the board signed the takeover document, all Pinnacle Airways systems came back online. Marcus stood up, adjusting his suit. "Gentlemen, as of tomorrow, Pinnacle Airways will no longer exist. In its place comes Horizon Airlines, where dignity and respect will be more than empty words and marketing materials." As he left the room, Marcus received a message from Helen. "Phase 3, complete. The empire has fallen." What no one in the room knew was that the real transformation had only just begun. Marcus' plan wasn't simply to acquire a company. It was to fundamentally change an entire industry. And contrary to what Hampton imagined, it wasn't about revenge. It was about justice in fixing a broken system. Marcus wasn't destroying Pinnacle. He was creating something better from its ashes. Meanwhile, at every airport in the country, surprised passengers were discovering that their delayed Pinnacle flights now displayed a new name on the departure boards: Horizon Airlines. What they didn't yet know was who was behind this transformation and how their travel experiences would change forever. 3 months after the acquisition of Pinnacle Airways, Marcus Reynolds was watching the sunrise from the rooftop of his San Francisco office. The cityscape looked different today, not just because of the golden light bathing the skyscrapers, but because of the feeling that something fundamental had changed in the world. "Mr. Reynolds, they're here," announced Helen, interrupting her moment of contemplation. Marcus adjusted his suit and walked into the conference room, where a team of journalists from the main broadcasters were waiting. It was the day of the official launch of Horizon Airlines, and the business world was watching with fascination at the fastest and most complete transformation the aviation industry had ever seen. "How does it feel to be the first black CEO to take over a major airline in the United States?" asked the reporters soon, as Marcus sat down. "I feel mainly responsible," Marcus replied with a serene smile. "Responsible for demonstrating that true leadership doesn't come from domination, but from transformation." Meanwhile, miles away, Diane Parker was facing her 3rd job interview of the week. The doors were closing one after the other, her name now associated with the scandal that had brought down Pinnacle. "I'm sorry, Miss Parker," said the HR manager, handing back her resume. "Your background doesn't align with our corporate values." The same words in different offices. The irony didn't escape Diane. Now she was the one who didn't fit the profile. Richard Hampton was facing his own demons. Federal investigations into systemic discrimination and financial fraud had resulted in criminal charges. His empire crumbled, his reputation destroyed, his fortune evaporating in lawyer bills and court settlements. At Horizon Airlines, new headquarters, Alex, the young employee who had recognized Marcus on that fateful day, now led the newly created Inclusive Experience Department. "Our goal is simple," Alex explained to a group of new employees. "Every passenger should be treated with the same dignity, regardless of who they are or what class they are flying in." Victoria Chun, promoted to COO of Horizon, walked through the refurbished terminal at the international airport, observing the changes, signs in multiple languages, welcome passengers, employees of different ethnicities and backgrounds, attended to them at check-in, and the company's new slogan shown in blue and gold letters above the boarding gates. Horizonte, where the sky belongs to. Everyone, the transformation went far, beyond aesthetics. Marcus had implemented profound structural changes, scholarship programs for young people, from marginalized communities interested in aviation, partnerships with historically black universities, and a rigorous feedback system that identified and corrected any discriminatory behavior. 6 months after the acquisition, Horizon Airline surprised the market by becoming the highest rated airline in customer satisfaction. The shares, initially undervalued, had tripled in value. One rainy afternoon, Marcus received an unexpected phone call. "Mr. Reynolds, this is James Parker, Diane's husband." Marcus motioned for Helen to leave him alone. "I know who you are, Mr. Parker. My wife, she's destroyed. She can't get a job anywhere. Our health insurance has run out and our daughter needs treatment." Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the moment. "Mr. Parker, what your wife did to me was just a symptom of a bigger problem. I have no interest in destroying her life." After a long silence, Marcus continued, "Tell her to come to Horizon's Human Resources office next week, not for a service position. That would be reckless given her background, but we do have a position in the awareness training program. Perhaps the experience of being on the other side could be educational." That evening, during a benefit dinner sponsored by the Phoenix Foundation for Young People from Underprivileged Communities, Marcus met Evelyn Wade, his former mentor and first investor. "You could have destroyed that company completely," remarked Evelyn as they watched the young scholars circulate around the room. "Why did you choose to transform it?" Instead, Marcus contemplated the question for a moment. Because destruction only begets more destruction. To truly break a cycle of discrimination, you need to create something better instead. He paused, watching a nervous young man trying on his first tie. "I didn't just want to win, Evelyn. I wanted to change the rules of the game. The real victory is not in seeing your oppressor fall, but in building something that makes his mentality obsolete." 6 weeks later, an African-American man of around 70 boarded a Horizon flight to visit his daughter. When the flight attendant led him to first class, the man hesitated. "There must be some mistake. My ticket is for economy." "There's no mistake, sir," replied the purser, smiling. "Mr. Reynolds has implemented a program called Horizon Legacy. Each week, we select passengers who lived through the era of segregation to experience the comforts they were once denied." When the elderly man settled down, he found a personal card on his seat so that future generations will know that heaven belongs to everyone. Marcus Reynolds' Pinnacles historic acquisition was more than a demonstration of financial power. It was a reminder that true justice comes not from retaliation, but from rebuilding. Marcus Reynolds didn't just shut down a discriminatory company. He opened up a new horizon of possibilities. While many expected a story of revenge, Marcus offered something more powerful: transformation, because the real answer to prejudice is never more division, but the creation of a world where such barriers become irrelevant. If this story touched your heart and you believe that transformation is more powerful than revenge, subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about people who have not only faced injustice, but transformed it into something better for everyone, because as Marcus Reynolds taught us, the real revolution is not in breaking systems, but in rebuilding them with more humanity.